Everything you build begins in silence, before the action, before the applause, before the outcome. There is the thought, invisible, silent, sacred. The human mind is not just a container of ideas. It is the construction site of destiny. Every future rises or falls on the scaffolding of belief. You do not escape your thoughts, you become them. You do not outrun your mindset, you walk in its shadow. We live in a world obsessed with results, appearances, metrics. But beneath every success, beneath every failure, is a thought that gave it life, a quiet sentence repeated in the mind until it hardened into a worldview. I'm not good enough. No one cares. This is too hard. Or the alternative, I can figure this out. I matter. This is just the beginning. You cannot plant poison and expect a harvest of roses. The soil of the mind will only yield what you have allowed to take root. And so few realize this. So few slow down long enough to ask, what am I thinking when no one's watching? What script plays behind the silence? What blueprint am I following? As Dale Carnegie once said, our thoughts make us what we are. It's not just a quote, it's a law, a principle as absolute as gravity. If you feed your mind fear, you will live small, even in large rooms. If you nurture resentment, you will sabotage every relationship that tries to love you. If you obsess over judgment, you will never step forward fully. But if you cultivate peace, if you speak to yourself with clarity, compassion, and conviction, your thoughts become ladders instead of chains. They lift you into rooms that once terrified you. They guide you across bridges that once seemed too fragile. They make possible what once felt unreachable. This is not positive thinking. This is responsible thinking. The understanding that the words you repeat shape the world you create. And just because a thought is loud doesn't mean it's true. Most of your doubts are echoes, not facts. Echoes of voices you didn't choose. Teachers, parents, failures, rejections. But today, right now, you get to decide which thoughts you will allow to build your future. Never trust the people who hand you their limiting beliefs wrapped in concern. You should be realistic. People like us don't make it that far. Don't aim too high. You might get hurt. Their fear is not your inheritance. Their doubt is not your destiny. You were not born to repeat their stories. You were born to write your own. And to write it, you must master the internal monologue, the quiet conversation that shapes every decision. Every time you tell yourself, this isn't working, your subconscious hears, give up. Every time you whisper, I always mess this up, your body prepares to fail. But every time you say, I'm learning, your mind shifts toward growth. Every time you affirm, I've been through worse and survived, your nervous system steadies. And slowly, thought by thought, you begin to rewire the path ahead. Success hugs you in private because it begins there, in the dark, in the silence, in the thoughts you feed before anyone sees you. Failure slaps you in public because it, too, was growing quietly beneath the surface. Your outer world is your inner script, brought to life, and yet, most people will spend more time picking out what they wear than what they think. They will design homes, wardrobes, websites, but not thoughts. But your thoughts are your real home. You live in them more than anywhere else. So ask yourself, is it a home of peace or punishment? No matter what happens, always be yourself. But make sure you know who that self is. Strip away the lies, the inherited fears, the borrowed shame. What remains is your true voice, your own blueprint. And it's not weak, it's not lost. It's just been buried beneath years of mental noise. But you can uncover it. You must. Because your future depends on it. Only you can bring peace to yourself. And that peace begins when you take responsibility for the garden of your mind. You do not need to control every thought, but you must become the gatekeeper. Not every seed deserves soil. Not every sentence deserves repetition. Choose thoughts that serve your future, not your fear. And yes, it will take work. Yes, it will feel foreign at first. You've been rehearsing negativity for years. It's a well-worn script. But with practice, appreciation becomes louder than complaint. Truth becomes clearer than doubt. Purpose becomes stronger than fear. And when that shift happens quietly, consistently, you won't need to chase your future. You'll attract it, because the person you've been becoming in silence will begin to walk in rooms and change the atmosphere. The future doesn't respond to panic. It responds to alignment, to clarity, to thought patterns that match the vision. And if your vision is peace, think peaceful thoughts. If your dream is freedom, think empowering thoughts. If your goal is love, think compassionate thoughts, not just toward others, but toward yourself. You cannot become what you attack. And when you attack yourself with every mistake, every flaw, every misstep, you reinforce the lie that you are broken. You are not broken. You are in process. You are in motion. And the mind that learns to support itself instead of sabotage that mind is a miracle. Don't underestimate the thoughts you casually entertain. They are builders, architects, sculptors. What you allow to stay will begin to shape you. If you want to change your life, start by changing the mental furniture. Rearrange it, replace it, burn what doesn't belong. Say it out loud if you must. That thought is not welcome here. Declare it, mean it, because your future is listening. And when you begin to speak like that to your own mind, with intention, with boundaries, with sacred clarity, you no longer walk through life as a prisoner of thought. You walk as the architect, the builder, the sovereign voice that says, I am not what I've survived. I am what I decide. And that decision starts anew every day, with every sentence you allow to echo through your awareness. There is no greater tragedy than a powerful mind left on autopilot, because it will build cages when left untrained. It will default to limitation, to fear, to self-sabotage, masked as realism. But once you step in, once you take the reins of your internal language, the transformation is inevitable. You become intentional. And intention is how the invisible becomes visible. People will ask you what your secret is, how you seem calmer, more focused, how you manifest peace in chaos. They won't know that the secret was in the discipline of your mind, that behind the scenes, you were rewriting your story line by line, unlearning what dimmed you, reprogramming what confined you. And while they were waiting for circumstances to change, you were changing the thinker behind the experience. The one who learns to master their thoughts masters their reactions. And the one who masters their reactions becomes unstoppable. Because the world will still throw chaos your way. But now, your mind is not a mirror, it's a filter. It no longer reflects every threat. It translates, it questions, it reframes. Someone criticizes you, you no longer spiral. You say, that's information, not identity. You feel fear creeping in. You don't shrink. You say, fear is data, not direction. This is the kind of mindset that builds legacies, not temporary motivation, not shallow confidence, but a deep, unshakable self-respect that no one can give and no one can take. A mindset that doesn't just dream, but executes. That doesn't just plan, but aligns. That doesn't just speak, but listens to what's really being said in the inner chamber of the soul. And what is your soul saying when you're quiet? That's the real blueprint, not your resume, not your goals board, but your inner dialogue when the lights go off. Is it love? Is it support? Or is it a storm of criticism dressed up as ambition? If it's the latter, you will never find peace in your progress, because every win will still feel like a fight to be enough. But when you begin to water your thoughts with truth, true truth, not manufactured affirmation, then something divine starts to grow. Thoughts like, I am enough, even while becoming. I am not my mistakes. I am the wisdom I gain through them. I am not late. I am right on time for the life I am building with clarity. These thoughts don't just sound good, they build good. They lay brick after brick of a future grounded in alignment, not illusion. Never trust a thought that demands you abandon yourself. Never repeat a belief that makes you smaller to fit into someone else's fear. The mind can be either a sacred temple or a psychological trap, and the difference is whether you choose your thoughts or allow them to choose you. And yes, there will be days when the storm is louder than the silence, days when the old voices return, dressed in the robes of your past, trying to convince you to shrink again. Don't fight them. Observe them. Thank them for what they once tried to protect. Then let them go. Your mind is evolving. Your future is no longer interested in outdated scripts. Because here's the truth. No one told you your destiny is not written in stone. It's written in syntax, in sentences, in phrases you rehearse daily. That internal narration is your compass. If it's pointed toward fear, you'll find reasons to hide. If it's directed toward purpose, you'll find reasons to rise. You don't rise because life gets easier. You rise because your thoughts get stronger, clearer, more supportive, more intelligent. A sharpened thought is more powerful than a blunt emotion. Emotion says, I'm scared. Thought replies, we've been through worse. We're not alone. We are not the fear. We are the observer of it. And from that place, you lead. Not just others, yourself. You begin to live on purpose, to create instead of react, to imagine instead of replicate, to evolve instead of repeat. This is how transformation happens, not by waiting for life to change, but by changing the lens through which you see life. And when the lens is clear, you realize you were never truly stuck. You were simply stuck in a loop of thinking that didn't match who you were becoming. You are not behind. You are not broken. You are not lost. You are evolving. And every time you choose a thought that affirms that, you build momentum. Invisible, perhaps, but momentum nonetheless. You start waking up with direction. You begin speaking to yourself like someone worth listening to. And that voice, clear, steady, rooted, becomes the map. The internal compass pointing north when the world pulls sideways. So build carefully. Think consciously. Speak to yourself like someone building something sacred, because you are. Your future is listening, and the blueprint is being drawn, thought by thought. Because once you realize your thoughts are not just visitors, they are architects, you begin to take responsibility for the home they are constructing within you. And if the foundation is worry, the walls will be fragile. If the frame is shame, the roof will leak. But when your thoughts are built on clarity, truth, and direction, your inner world becomes a fortress, not one made of stone, but of stillness, a place where nothing outside of you has the power to define what lives within. And from that fortress, you learn to lead, not as someone chasing control, but as someone embodying calm. Because a person in control of their thoughts is never desperate for control over others. They don't manipulate, they magnetize. They don't panic, they plan. They don't chase validation. They already possess the clarity that nothing real can be taken from them. This is the hidden truth of power. It's not how loud you are, it's how quiet your thoughts are in the face of noise. Anyone can look confident, but real strength is in the man who walks away from chaos without announcing his peace. It's in the woman who no longer needs to win the argument because she's already won the war within. This level of mental freedom isn't given. It's earned, built, chiseled out of discomfort, forged in moments when the old thoughts scream and you whisper back, "Number, not this time." And it happens again and again and again, until one day your new thoughts are louder than the old ones. And that day, that is the quiet revolution. That is the day the past loses its grip, not because it disappeared, but because your thoughts no longer drag it into the present. That is the day anxiety fades, not because the world calmed down, but because your mind no longer fuels the fire. That is the day you stop living in reaction and begin designing the life your future self will thank you for. Design it now, not with spreadsheets, not with checklists, with thought, with intention, with the unshakable decision to never again think in ways that betray your vision. There is no neutral thought. Every thought is building something. Every belief you hold has blueprints attached to it. So ask yourself, what am I building? A sanctuary or a cell? And if it's a cell, break it, thought by thought. No need for rage, no need for regret, just quiet courage. One sentence at a time. Say it again, not out loud inside. I am not what happened to me. I am what I choose to believe next. I am not my mistakes. I am my response to them. I am not my fear. I am the space beneath it. I am not my thoughts. I am the thinker. I am not stuck. I am being shaped. I am not behind. I am preparing. I am not lost. I am returning to what matters. And then, stay there. Don't rush back to distraction. Sit in the stillness you've been running from, because beneath it lies the voice you were born with, the one that says, I am ready to build, not from fear, not from shame, not from comparison, but from truth. And once you build from truth, the world can no longer scare you into shrinking, because you know what you've built cannot be undone by noise. You know that your thoughts are aligned, not with chaos, but with calling. And alignment, unlike hype, lasts. Don't envy the loud. Don't chase the fast. Don't worship the visible. Think in silence. Build in quiet. Move in clarity. Let the results speak for themselves, because they will. When the internal is right, the external must follow. It has no choice. Life bends toward the mind that bends inward first. Circumstances are mirrors, not masters. And your thoughts are the brush that paints what the mirror will reflect. So paint deliberately. Think deliberately. Live deliberately. Because the mind left on autopilot will drive you off cliffs, cliffs of regret, of self-abandonment, of chasing things that never satisfy. But the mind in your hands, trained, refined, aligned, will guide you to places your past could never imagine. This is what it means to become the architect of your life. You stop begging for better blueprints. You start rewriting the ones you've carried for years. The inherited patterns, the generational scripts, the whispered not enoughs, all of them edited, revised, dismantled. And in their place, a mind that says, I trust where I'm going. A heart that whispers, I deserve to arrive. A life that reflects what you now know to be true. Your thoughts are not decoration. They are the bricks in your foundation. They are the ink in your legacy. They are the signal that shapes what you attract, how you respond, and who you become. So do not think carelessly. Do not think by accident. Do not think from borrowed fears. Think with precision. Think with reverence. Think with the awareness that the future you want is already responding to the mental environment you create today. And if you can do that, if you can think with care, and speak with clarity, and act with conviction, then nothing outside of you can keep you from the life that is already waiting to be built. Because you are no longer wondering how to get there. You are thinking like someone who already knows. And once you begin thinking like someone who already knows, something sacred happens beneath the surface. The fear that once ruled you begins to dissolve. Not because life becomes easier, but because your inner world becomes wiser. Your reactions slow. Your clarity sharpens. You no longer look outward for confirmation. You already carry the answer. Not in arrogance, but in alignment. Not in ego, but in embodiment. Because you've done the inner work. You've chosen the thought before the result, the mindset before the miracle, the blueprint before the blessing. And this is the great shift, the quiet revolution that separates the distracted from the determined. The world will hand you templates, but only you can write the architecture of your becoming. And your mind, shaped with care, repeated in discipline, becomes the compass that never lies. Because now, you are not chasing life, you are co-creating it. Understand this deeply. Every time you rehearse the thought, you rehearse the future. That worry loop is not harmless. It is a rehearsal for collapse. That inner monologue of, I can't, I always fail, nothing ever works. Those are scripts being passed to the actors of your reality, and they will perform what you give them. Your thoughts direct the play. Your beliefs build the set. Your words give the lines. And your expectations? They're the lighting, the energy that sets the tone for everything to follow. So light the stage with intention. Write lines you would want your life to recite. Think thoughts you'd be proud to see come to life. Because they will. The truth is, you've been a powerful creator all along. But most people don't know their power because they've never taken responsibility for their thoughts. They decorate the outside and ignore the voice inside. They spend years fixing the world while the mind screams in chaos. They put on confidence but rehearse self-hatred every night. And then they wonder why success tastes like sand. But not you, not anymore. Because you now know, if the mind is clear, the path will follow. If the thoughts are whole, the world will begin to reflect that wholeness. Not immediately, not always visibly, but certainly, inevitably, unfailingly. So stop waiting for proof before you think differently. The proof is the result. The thought is the cause. And the thought must come first. Think like someone who trusts. Even if your voice shakes, even if the fear returns, think through it. Not over it, not around it, but through it. Say, I hear the fear, but I choose the truth. I see the doubt, but I trust the process. I feel the discomfort, but I move anyway. And slowly, the blueprint begins to take shape. You don't need to see the whole path, just the next brick. Lay it with thought. Lay it with love. Lay it with the understanding that you are not behind. You are not broken. You are building. And builders must think like builders. Not like victims. Not like imitators. Not like the lost who wait for permission. You are not waiting. You are creating. Word by word. Thought by thought. Morning by morning. And in this creative power, you begin to find freedom. The freedom to let go of thoughts that were never yours to carry. The freedom to reframe what once defined you. The freedom to build slowly, intentionally, from a foundation that cannot be shaken. It is not the man with the most talent who wins. It is the one who learns to govern his thoughts. It is not the woman with the loudest voice who rises. It is the one who learned to be her own inner advocate long before the world noticed. Because the world responds to the thinker, not the reactor. The one who sees chaos and breathes. The one who meets challenge with curiosity. The one who no longer waits to feel ready because their mind was trained to move anyway. Do not wait to feel brave. That is the myth. Thoughts lead feelings, not the other way around. And if you choose the right thought often enough, Courage will follow. Action will follow. Alignment will follow. And soon, your life begins to look like a reflection of everything you once thought was out of reach. Not because the world changed, because your blueprint did. Because you stopped borrowing scripts that kept you stuck. Because you stopped giving power to thoughts that only knew how to shrink. Because you stopped living in the mental architecture of someone else's fears. And you began to build a world where peace was normal, where purpose was default, where clarity was currency. And that world, your world, began to mirror it. So now, you no longer ask, will it work? You ask, how can I think in a way that honors what I'm building? You no longer ask, when will it happen? You ask, what must I believe in order to become the person who can receive it? You no longer ask, why me? You say, of course me. Who better? And this is not arrogance. This is spiritual clarity. This is the soul remembering its assignment. This is what happens when the mind no longer fights the truth, but works in harmony with it. And yes, you'll still have setbacks. That's the nature of life. But setbacks in a trained mind don't lead to collapse. They lead to calibration. The difference between someone who quits and someone who grows is simply the thought they allow in the moment of uncertainty. The quitter says, I knew I wasn't good enough. The builder says, this is part of the process. One thought, different future. And if you take nothing else from this, take this. Your thoughts are not commentary. They are commands. Speak with care. Think with reverence. Believe with power. Because your mind is listening, and it is building exactly what you tell it to. And as you continue forward, thought by thought, breath by breath, the blueprint becomes more refined, the structure stronger, the design clearer. Because the longer you think with intention, the more automatic it becomes. The same way fear once crept in without invitation, faith begins to arrive without effort. Not blind optimism, but earned clarity. The kind of clarity that can only come from facing your thoughts, questioning them, choosing better, and repeating it until the new becomes natural. You will feel it. The old patterns will still knock, but they will no longer be welcome guests. The self-doubt will whisper, but you will know it by name now and choose not to answer. The fear will still exist, but it will not steer. Because your mind is no longer on autopilot, it's awake. And the awakened mind is the first step to an awakened life. No one tells you how deeply inner peace depends on the quality of your thoughts. We look for peace in vacations, in time off, in distractions. But peace is not a location, it's a decision. It's a home you build inside your mind. A decision to stop rehearsing chaos and start designing calm. A decision to stop entertaining thoughts that do not honor your future. You cannot access your next level of life with the thinking that created your last crisis. So many are stuck not because they lack opportunity, but because they keep thinking from an expired version of themselves. They've grown, but their thoughts haven't. They've changed, but their inner script still speaks to the version they've outgrown. Your body may have evolved. Your habits may have evolved. But have your thoughts? Or are you still punishing yourself for a mistake made by someone you no longer are? Release it. The thought that says, I'm too late. The thought that says, I'll always be this way. The thought that says, they were right about me. No, they weren't. And you know that now. Because if they were right, you wouldn't be here healing, searching, becoming. Let that be the new narrative. Not, I'm broken, but I'm rebuilding. Not, I failed, but I learned. End quote. Not, no one sees me, but I am now seeing myself more clearly than ever. And that, my friend, is what changes everything. The moment you become the witness to your own internal language, you reclaim your power. You become aware of the subtle sabotage, the quiet criticisms, the hidden limits that dressed up as logic You stop letting thoughts walk through your mind without credentials. You ask, who sent you? Do you build me or break me? Do you serve my future or sabotage my now? And if the answer is sabotage, you evict it. No drama, no overthinking, just truth. Because you've outgrown the luxury of entertaining thoughts that do not respect your vision. Your thoughts are sacred territory now. Only clarity allowed in. Only peace allowed to stay. Only truth allowed to echo. This is how your future begins, not with a new job, a new relationship, a new opportunity, but with a new internal language. One that supports instead of scolds. One that encourages instead of doubts. One that says, you are not only allowed to succeed, you are responsible for thinking like someone who will. No more shrinking for people who think smaller. No more explaining your clarity to those committed to confusion. No more deferring your dreams because someone else couldn't see them. They weren't supposed to see it. You were. You were supposed to feel the weight of it, the pull of it, the sacred discomfort of knowing that something bigger was waiting for you, but only if you thought big enough to hold it. So think bigger, not louder, bigger, not wilder, clearer, not faster, wiser. Think like someone who believes they can lead themselves out of anything, not because they know everything, but because they know how to think through anything. And when you know how to think, you are no longer afraid of the unknown, because you no longer worship certainty. You trust your ability to respond, to observe, to adjust, to realign. That's real security. Not knowing what's next, but knowing that your thoughts will carry you through it. And they will. If you train them, if you feed them, if you refuse to speak death over your own direction, you are the voice you hear most. Be careful how you speak to yourself. The world can be cruel. Don't let your inner dialogue be an echo of that cruelty. Become your own sanctuary. Build it brick by brick with words that lift, not crush. With thoughts that stretch, not shrink. With beliefs that move you forward, not stories that keep you circling the same wound. You are not the voice that tells you to settle. You are not the echo of someone else's doubt. You are the author, the architect, the builder of thought. And if you can build your thinking, you can build anything. Because once you realize that your thoughts are blueprints, and you hold the pen, the compass, the scale, nothing remains outside your control. Not the outcome, no, but the design. And design determines destiny. It determines how you endure storms, how you interpret loss, how you rise from ruins. You begin to understand that it was never the world you had to master. It was the mind through which you saw it, and now you see it. Clearly, perhaps for the first time, every word you've ever repeated to yourself, every silent phrase uttered beneath the breath of fear, or hope, or anger, it lives in you still. It has become behavior, pattern, response, identity. And so, the real work, the deep, sacred, invisible work, is not to force your life to look different, but to think differently enough that different becomes inevitable. You begin to write new scripts, not for show, not for false motivation, but as acts of devotion, as declarations of spiritual sovereignty. I am no longer available for thoughts that dishonor my growth. I do not chase peace, I think in alignment with it. I am no longer a hostage to the voice of my past. I speak with the authority of who I'm becoming. This is the beginning of self-respect at the highest level. Mental self-respect, where you stop feeding thoughts that bite you, where you stop opening the door to voices that only ever chain you, where you begin to build a home within that reflects what you actually deserve, not what you were told you deserved. And the more you think with honor, the more your life will rise to meet you. The people around you will begin to shift. Some will grow silent, not because you changed, but because you finally started to think in a way that made their chaos uncomfortable. Let them fall away. Some losses are actually realignments. Some exits are revelations. Some silences are sacred. You are not for everyone, and that's okay, because the more clearly you think, the more clearly you'll see who's walking beside you, because they truly value your essence, not just your utility. And when you think from that place of clarity, you'll stop handing pieces of your peace to people who cannot carry it. This is what self-mastery looks like, not some perfect performance, but the quiet discipline of choosing thoughts that feed your highest self, of letting go of narratives soaked in shame, of saying, "No, I won't think that about myself anymore, not even in private." Because here's the most brutal truth. You will never outwork the way you talk to yourself in silence. You can hustle, succeed, perform, but if your thoughts are poisoned, your victories will still taste like loss. But if your thoughts are clean, honest, aligned, respectful, then even your slow seasons will feel like movement. Even your pauses will feel like preparation. This is the new way, the deeper way, the way that doesn't depend on hype, the way that doesn't fall apart when life gets loud. It's the way of the thinker, the inner builder, the person who does not react to life like a child begging for approval, but who responds to it like an architect, clear, steady, awake. And yes, this kind of mental self-leadership takes work. Every morning, every hour, every moment, you feel yourself drifting into loops that no longer serve. But what's the alternative? To keep living in thought patterns that don't respect your destiny. To keep defaulting to beliefs that belong to someone else's pain. You've come too far. You've seen too much. You've broken too many cycles already. You do not owe your old thoughts, your loyalty. You owe your future, your discipline. So give yourself that. Train your thinking the way an artist trains their hands. With patience, with reverence, with precision. You are crafting something beautiful, and the beauty begins inside. And the more beautiful your thoughts, the more beautifully your life will bloom. Not because you forced it, but because the root was finally strong enough to hold the fruit. Everything external is a branch. The root is your inner world, and every thought is a drop of water. Every word is sunlight. Every repetition is the soil's memory. And the memory of your mind shapes the momentum of your days. So remember wisely, speak wisely, think like someone whose future depends on it, because it does. You can read every book, watch every motivational video, go to every seminar. But if your thoughts remain unchecked, if your internal dialogue remains hostile, nothing outside of you will ever stick. Because you are the foundation. You are the one thought away from breakthrough. And you know that now. So don't wait. Don't wait for motivation. Don't wait for someone to believe in you. Don't wait for the fear to go silent. It may never. But you don't need silence to move. You need alignment. And alignment begins with a sentence. A decision. I will think in a way that serves me, even when it's hard. I will no longer rehearse the worst-case scenario. I will prepare for the best. I will not abandon myself in the privacy of my own mind. That is how you honor the gift of thought. That is how you build a future that doesn't collapse the moment no one claps for it. That is how you lead yourself, long before anyone else sees you as a leader. Because the thoughts you repeat in secret will eventually become the story the world reads about you. So write it well. Write it like someone who knows. Their thoughts are the blueprint. Their blueprint is sacred. And the future is already listening.